So let's try to solve this dictionary question which we have solved in the class. Okay, so now let's try to solve using functions and we'll call them in the boilerplate code. Okay, that's what we are trying to do. So let me start with the first question. Let me write that question over here. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing is I'll try to create a function and I will say this is update salary. Okay, what are the arguments which will be passed to this function? It depends on how you construct your function. So I'll take my data, so that is nothing but my employees. Okay, based on my employee ID, okay, this is a key and this is a value. So I'll try to identify based on that. Okay, that is what I will be doing. Okay, or I am thinking of. So employee ID, and let's say I want to add new salary. Okay, so new salary, that's what like I am like adding. So that's a function constructor. Okay, now I will check, okay, if my employee ID is in your employees. Okay, if it is there from your employees, okay, I'll try to pick employee ID. Okay, and I'll try to update. What I'll try to do, update. Okay, and here we need to update what? Dictionary, which is key and value. The value is 85,000. Okay, and the key is salary. Okay, so this is the function which I have created. Okay, so let's save this. Now let's try to call this if underscore name equals to underscore main. Okay, as simple. So first what I'll try to do is, okay, let's call the function which we create update salary. Okay, and it is expecting like employees, which data would be feeded, what is that employee ID and what is that salary. Okay, so this is like what we have written. Okay, now generally like what we generally do is when we call this, okay, sometimes we try to write a print on top of that. Okay, so it gives you a none. Okay, so make sure like, okay, and again like one thing is also there. So for now just remember that this is one thing you just need to avoid. Okay, so what you can do is, okay, simply you can just go and write print of employees. Okay, so you are not getting none. Okay, you are getting a list. And let's check the value of Bob. So the Bob is here, and if you see, the Bob data has been updated with a salary of 85,000. Okay, looks good. Now let's say sometimes like, okay, the in the output you want some columns. Okay, so what you can do is you can just iterate on that. So let's say for x comma y, okay, in employees dot items. Okay, so I'm trying to iterate on that, and simply what you can do is print of x comma y. Okay, so this is your x value and this is your y value. Okay, so that is what you are trying to print. That's one thing. If you want some variables out of it, okay, some value out of it, so let's say I want like name, you can pass that also. So if you're getting like employee ID, employee name. Okay, so it depends on the output what they are trying to ask. So I'm just trying to show a couple of approaches so that like, okay, it will be helpful to us. Now let's say I want to return, they ask like, okay, return this dictionary, return dictionary as list. Okay, so then you'll have to write a comprehension or list comprehension. Okay, so you'll try to write for I in employees dot values. Okay, and I'm just trying to absorb that in the expression. Okay, let's assign this, let's say employee list, and let's try to print my list. Let's save this and let's execute this. So if you see, it is returning as a list. Okay, inside list it's a dictionary. And let's say from this, let's say if you want to find out like some columns again, like how we have find it out over here, you can do that also. Okay, so I can just like copy this piece of code again, comment this piece of out and paste this. Let me just take this. Okay, so here what you can do is, okay, now I'll just show you like items also. So not items, okay, keys also, what it shows. Okay, let me hit this. Okay, so if you see, we are getting keys. Okay, so just make sure like you understand what are keys, what are values. Okay, so if you see, we are not getting now the key, we are getting the values. So you need to understand keys, values. Okay, now if you want to get both the things, okay, that's where like you go for items, and that's where like you just have to say like, as I showed over here, x. Okay, so let's say here I'll just say a comma b, and I'll try to sorry and I'll try to take that a comma b. Okay, and let's so print a comma b for I in, sorry, I just added this, and if you see, it is giving us a error. So let's wrap this. Okay, and let's see this. Okay, let's run this. Okay, so now if you see, it is giving me a list but key and value also. Okay, so just make sure like, okay, understand like how you are writing your code. And that's one more thing is like, again, if I add, this would be a list of list. Okay, so earlier it was list and then tuple. So few combinations which I'm trying to show. Okay, so make sure like you understand them. Okay, and when you are writing the code, you know how to play with your dictionaries. Okay, so that's like what you needed to understand. So from the second third question, I'll be a little quicker. Thank you.